24, Eddie Snowshoe died in a solitary cell. After too many months in solitary, his mind became unwell. The response to the fact that he was suicidal was to lock him up alone, and so he died in a place where no one cared and where he was unknown. He soaked the floor of his cell, so when he fell, he couldn't change his mind. He had to overcome his natural instinct to survive in a world that was unkind. 162 days of solitary in a tiny cell had eventually broken his mind, and when the guards rushed in to cut him down, there was no pulse left for them to find. 3 years in prison transformed him into a chronically suicidal person. Locked in a 2.5 by 3.6 meter cell only made his mental health worsen. Solitary confinement was counterproductive to any kind of harm prevention. Hallucinations, anxiety, and severe depression were the results of solitary detention. Irreversible damage was caused to the brain, and the suicide rate increased 7 times. And it didn't matter what laws they broke, because the punishment never fit the crimes. The data was already in that solitary increases self-injury and suicide death. How can a person stay sane in an environment barely big enough to take a breath? Despite attempts to limit solitary confinement, Canadian Correctional Services has yet to respond, and all their efforts they've made to enact changes are no more than a pebble in a pond. If these people were animals in a humane society, there'd be an outcry to treat them better, unlike Eddie Snowshoe's mother, who was left sobbing as she read her son's suicide letter. I'm tired of hearing about the cracks in the system because they're more like gaping holes. When will someone be held accountable for all the correction system's discarded souls? How long will the correctional system be nothing but a dumping ground for the mentally ill? How long will their practices create mental illnesses before someone has had their fill? We lock people up in little metal boxes, and then we expect them to be all right. With no one to talk to but themselves, they're left alone all day and night. And what was Eddie Snowshoe's crime? He was just a kid trying to help his mother out. The oldest boy whose father had died, he was trying to figure out what being a man was about. And he couldn't find employment with 3 younger brothers living at home. And on the day he committed his crime, he felt like a man who was all alone. And he never really had a plan. He just grabbed a cab that was going nowhere. Then he decided to rob the cab driver, even though his actions were clearly unfair. And when the cabbie chose to run away, he fired the shot that wounded him, then made a little attempt to escape apprehension as the light in him grew dim. It grew dimmer when they locked him away because he couldn't handle it. This shy and quiet boy became suicidal and mentally unfit. And when they put him in solitary, it only aggravated his mental state, until the only thing that he could feel was the measure of his own self-hate. He tried a number of times before that day, but instinct always intervened, and so he made sure that this death wasn't only one he dreamed. He poured shampoo on the floor so when he hung he'd find no traction, and so this was his final choice, and in his life his final action. But what choice was he given, locked away and suicidal? The only choice they left him was the deadly act that was so final.